You're Claire, right? The woman said, touching my arm like we were old friends. Michael talks about you all the time. I smiled and said yes. Because what else do you say when you're standing in a funeral home and you don't know who Claire is, but you know your boyfriend's name is Michael? I just didn't know yet that I wasn't her. For 2 years, I'd been dating Michael. Steady, warm, the kind of relationship that felt safe. He had one close friend he talked about constantly. David. Funny David. Loyal David. The best man at his future wedding, he used to joke. But I had never met him. 2 years and never once. There was always a reason. David lived 2 hours away. David was busy with work. David's schedule never lined up with mine. I stopped asking after a while because relationships have rooms you don't go into, and I told myself that was fine. Then David died. A car accident. Sudden, senseless. Michael called me sobbing, and I held him that whole night. When he asked me to come to the funeral, of course, I said yes. This was his person. I wanted to be there for him. The funeral home was quiet in that specific way. Funeral homes are quiet, hushed, golden light, too many flowers. Michael introduced me to people as my girlfriend, and they'd nod politely, but something in their faces was off, like the math wasn't working. Then an older woman, David's aunt, I think, took my hand and said, "So you're the one who finally got him to settle down." David said you two were inseparable. 2 years and still going strong. That's rare these days. 2 years, inseparable. That part was true. But she kept talking. He said you practically lived together by month 6. David said he'd never seen Michael this happy. We did not live together. We had never even talked about it. I smiled, nodded, said nothing. Because grief makes people misremember things, right? That's what I told myself. Then I heard it. A small laugh from across the room and a man saying, "Claire's here." God, David loved her. Always said she was the realest thing that ever happened to Michael. Claire. I turned, and that's when I saw her. A woman about my age, dressed in soft black, being hugged by everyone in the room like she belonged there, like she'd belonged there for years. She wasn't a stranger to anyone. She was the center of gravity in a room full of people who clearly already loved her. And Michael. Michael was standing next to her, not far, not awkward, close. Something in my stomach went cold and still. I watched the way people greeted her. The way David's mother held her face in both hands and said, "He talked about your wedding like it was already happening." The way someone else said, "You two were always at every game night, every holiday." David said you were the only stable thing in Michael's life. Game nights, holidays, a whole circle of people who knew her name, her face, her laugh. I had never been to a single game night. I had never met a single one of these people. 2 years, and I had been a secret, while she had been the girlfriend, the real one, the one who got introduced, the one who got remembered. I didn't make a scene. I didn't cry, not yet. I walked outside into the parking lot, into the gray afternoon air, and I waited. Michael came out a few minutes later, his face still soft with grief, completely unaware that anything had shifted. "Hey," he said. "You okay?" "Who's Claire?" I said, quiet, steady. His face didn't even have time to build a lie. It just fell. "I can explain." "You don't have to," I said. "I just watched an entire room of people who love you talk about a relationship I've never heard of, with a woman who isn't me. It's not what it looks like." "It's exactly what it looks like," I said. "I'm the one you hide. She's the one you show." He reached for my hand and I stepped back, not dramatically, just finally. 2 years, Michael. I never asked to meet your world because I trusted you'd bring me into it eventually, but there was no eventually. There was just her. He didn't deny it. That was the worst part. He just stood there, Grief and guilt tangled together on his face and said nothing, because there was nothing true left to say. I came here today to support you, I said, and I leave today knowing exactly what I was to you. A secret, not a relationship, a room you kept locked. I turned and walked to my car. He didn't follow. Maybe some part of him knew there was nothing left to chase. It's been several months now. I think about that funeral sometimes. How strange it is that the most honest day of my relationship was the day everyone else's grief accidentally revealed my own. I don't know what happened between Michael and Claire after that. I didn't ask. I didn't need to. What I know is this. I spent 2 years being loved quietly, privately, in a way that felt safe, but was actually just hidden. And I learned that real love doesn't ask you to disappear so someone else can shine in the light you should have shared. I left that parking lot lighter than I walked in because I finally understood I wasn't the love of his life. I was the secret he almost got away with.